beats the heck out of me. President Trump got us out of the Paris Climate Accord. Biden is putting us back into the Paris Climate Accord. And what people don't realize is that he's putting American taxpayers on the hook to pay for what China will not pay for, because they don't have any standards for environmental stewardship to go by. And you're exactly right. The Chinese have set up these re-education camps in the Xinjiang province, the Muslim majority, and they are being forced to make these solar panels. 95% of the solar panels have materials made in that province by those enslaved laborers. So, I mean, this is a tremendous human rights violation, wow. And you think the left would be concerned about that?
Well, you think that John Kerry would mention that while he's flying private, around the world, accepting awards. So basically, the European Union, to make sure they're up to snuff when it comes to the Paris Climate Agreement, is collecting things that are made by these Uyghur Muslims and other minorities, and they are not acknowledging that fact.
No, they're not acknowledging that fact. And in fact, some of the solar panels that we have right here in the United States likely has some of that same material in it.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, 95% of the solar panels in Europe have the silicon components that are made there in that Xinjiang province by slave laborers.
We should say, too, just to make this more relatable to maybe everyday Americans, I mean, these Uyghur Muslims, and by the way, they call them re-education camps. They are, let's call them what they are. These are internment camps. There's forced genocide happening. I mean, these are disgusting, despicable places that we thought we eradicated from this planet almost a century ago at this point. But they're also making products for Nike, for the NBA. And no one wants to talk about that, but they're doing that at these labor camps as well. I wanted to ask you about the coronavirus because we're on the topic of China. Do you expect the Biden administration to take this seriously and try to hold China accountable at any point for this pandemic?
Well, I haven't heard a word about it from the Biden administration. As you well know, President Trump accurately referred to it as the China virus. It came to us from China. We know that the World Health Organization conspired with the Chinese to withhold that information. They're the ones responsible for letting it out into the rest of the world. There are many questions about where this virus was, how it was manufactured in the first place, if it was manufactured or if it was just organic. Right. But we know that it got out of that laboratory somehow. No, I don't see any signs that the Biden administration is planning to hold the Chinese accountable. And there are many questions about why that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, over 500,000 Americans have died. Those families, the rest of us, we've all been affected in some way. We deserve an answer so this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We held a candlelight vigil for those 500 Americans that have died from the coronavirus earlier this week.
Yeah.
You would think that would shed some light on it, and it would provide an incentive to the Biden administration to seek answers, because those families deserve answers.
Congressman, I want to talk about the COVID relief bill. Now, many on the left are calling it the American Rescue Plan. That's the technical title, but they're very careful to call it that now because the bill no longer does anything to address vaccinating Americans. It's less than 1% goes toward funding the vaccination rollout, and less than 10% goes toward actual COVID-19 relief. This bill is going to be voted on by the House tomorrow. What do you expect to happen?
Well, they've got the numbers, so I expect that it's going to pass on a partisan party line vote. But you just said it yourself, Rob, less than 10%, 9% actually, goes toward COVID relief. Money for schools that's not even going to get to those schools and be spent until 2022, violating the promise that the president made to open our schools back up. Money for the Endowment of the Arts, opening up money for Planned Parenthood, taxpayer-funded abortions. This is terrible that we're spending another almost $2 trillion on a liberal wish list rather than helping the American people.
Are you surprised that President Biden hasn't held a press conference yet, 36 days into his time in office? By this time, 4 years ago, President Trump had done it twice. We've got a $2 trillion bill here. You'd think he'd be out in front of the American people trying to sell it, right?
Yeah, I don't know how he can come to the American people with a straight face and try to sell this. You know, he challenged Republicans, tell me what we should cut out. And we gave him a whole list of things to cut out. Some of them I just mentioned to you.
Right.
So I'm not surprised at all that that President Biden is not coming out and being accountable to the American people and taking questions from the media about this package, because he knows, President Biden knows, that it is chock full of liberal wish list items, has little to do with actual